Hi, welcome to this video in the series on the bronze version of workshop software onboarding process. This one, we're going to go through some additional settings for the system. So we're going to jump down in here into settings. The previous one went against the company settings. Now we're going to go into some of these other settings in here. So for example, we're going to jump into the company lists. Now what these company lists are is there's, for starters, some templates. Now the templates are really cool. What this allows you to do is the templates can be written once and then you can use those templates as many times as you want. So for example, this one here, if we edit it and have a look, this is what as it's got in terms of tire and brake, etc., right? Now I can go plus and add another template, and I can type in a template name. I can type in the template description and go save, and then there will be an extra template listed there. But let me show you what this does. If I go into the job center and into an invoice, and if I go down into basically any of the notes that are in here, you'll see here under invoice notes, you can go add template. And so when I go there, I can go sample service and I can go select, and there's all those notes that have automatically pre-populated. So I can then put in right hand front, good, etc., I can put, the front is 80%, that kind of thing, right? So I can type in whatever I want. So, you can edit these, of course, and change whatever might happen in here. But that just, instead of me typing these out each time, it just allows me to go add template, and I can go and choose the template, and it goes and you can go and put multiple ones in here, right? Like what I've just done there. So that is just an easy way to get some cool things added into the details instead of typing them over and over again. So that's what so there's ones for invoice notes, for the job card notes, for documents when you're sending out documents, when you're emailing. These are car sales stuff, the SMS templates, and they're all your templates. And then we actually have the payment methods. So this is cash, credit card, direct deposit. You might want to break up your credit card into different ones if you want. You can do that if you like. That's up to you. You could add, maybe you take some sort of fuel card or something like that. You can go do that and go save. And now you've got a payment method. So when you finalize an invoice and it asks for payment methods, that's the way that you get an additional payment method onto your system. I'm just going to delete that one because I don't actually want it there, but that's how easy it is to add it in. It's literally that straightforward. So that's the company list, pretty easy. I'll come back to reminders. I'm going to show you the messages. Now, the messages are pretty cool. These are important. Again, once, set and forget once, but this has got the invoice footer text. So this is the notes that print out. I've just got that invoice open that we did before, but that's these notes in here, right? So that prints at the footer of the invoice every time. Important to put your details in there. A lot of people put their bank account details, but you can write whatever you want. You can write terms and conditions, all that sort of stuff. Similarly, when you print out a job card or a repair order, I hereby authorize, your company, put your company name in there to repair my vehicle and sign it. You might want that to be a lot more elaborate, and you can have a whole spiel of terms and conditions of getting somebody to sign a job card or a repair order. Similarly, on a statement, what prints at the bottom of the statement, prints at the bottom of the quote, a cash sale. So they're all your footers. I think that's fairly self-explanatory. Now, the email messages, by default, when you send out an invoice email message, you'll want to put in your company name here. So you can type this in, and you can type in your, whatever the details here. Let's set this up. So I would come in here and write, Joe's Auto Repairs or something like that, right? And put in the, Joe Smith, Joe's Auto Repairs, put in maybe your phone number, whatever, all that sort of stuff. So put in all your contact details and stuff like that in there, and make sure you put your company name up there as well. And then when you're sending it out, you can just put the customer name in there. And of course, you can write whatever you like in here. So that's just the default message that gets sent when you do an invoice to a customer. You can change it on each individual email, but this is the default that comes up. Similarly, for a supplier invoice, the statement email, the supplier email, just if you're generally sending a customer email, the inspection email, so if you're doing inspections, which actually isn't included in the bronze, but if you upgraded to that, that's what that would have in there. So there, your email templates, again, I think they're fairly self-explanatory, but important to get set up and using those. Now let's jump into, I don't want to save those changes that I just made. Go into the reminders, because look, this, to be honest, if you do get any customers coming back into your workshop, which 99.9% of customers will do this, then you should have these automatically reminders on, and this will pay for your subscription to workshop software many, many, many times over. This is super important. If you are going to use no other feature other than this, I would highly recommend you use the service reminders. So what we do is we turn them on. So do you want to automatically send those reminders? Set the number of days before the renewal is due to send. So I would typically set that at something between 7 to 14 days. So in other words, if a customer's car is due for service in 14 days' time, I'm going to send them a message today. You might want to make that 10 or 7 or something like that. That's entirely up to you. This is the email message that gets sent, and you'll notice that there's things like, this is your registration number. You can put in the next service date. You can put in the customer name. All of those sorts of things in here. Now, actually, you need to turn this on as well. So turn this default service. So you're going to send the default service, and you would write an SMS message. Your vehicle with registration number. I'm just going to copy that. Is due for service on this next service date. I can't copy that. Please call, to book it in. Now, if you had the gold version, you could send them the link to the booking diary, and they could book it in themselves. But, you can just type something like that. Type whatever you like, 160 character limit. So you see that there's 64 characters. That's the limit of an SMS, by the way, or a text message. Now, if you're in New South Wales and you want to send a registration renewal, or if you're in New Zealand, this will show WOF renewals. Other parts of the world, it will say maybe different things as well. So you can turn those on as well, and you can send an email or an SMS, depending on the customer preference, by the way. So you should fill both of those in, because some customers you're going to email and some customers you're going to send a text message. So I would turn that on too if you're going to send registration renewals. And then do you automatically want to send booking reminders? Well, the bronze version doesn't have bookings, but if you did upgrade to silver or gold, you could send a reminder for the booking reminders as well. But I would save this now. And so now, whenever anybody is due for service 10 days out, it will automatically send them either a text message or an email, and it will have them coming back into your workshop. This is a great way of getting customers back into your workshop. So can't stress how highly enough we would recommend you setting this up. Super easy to do, super important though. So that's the overview of the settings. So you've got, the workflow and the settings. I think you've got a pretty good handle on how workshop software operates. We're going to cover off a few other bits and pieces in the onboarding, but they're probably some of the main areas that you want to make sure that you got set up correctly, and the workflow is super important as well. So I hope you found this really valuable, and thanks for watching. Now, maybe one of the last things you want to set up is your mechanics, or one of the last things I'm going to show you about setting up. You can set these things up in any order that you want. So this is the onboarding for setting up mechanics. So in mechanics, we by default give you a couple of default mechanics that it says edit me mechanic 1. So if I double click, or I could use that pencil icon, it will open it up. So I can put in the guy's first name. So I can put in Fred Smith. Now the cost per hour, that reports out on some of the reports, so that you can say, okay, my cost per hour to have this guy in my workshop is X amount of dollars. Now that will depend on how you want to structure this, but we would typically include things like superannuation, their actual wages, all of those costs. You want to put in that cost per hour. Now this isn't an exact science in terms of the cost per hour, but it does give you a good idea of, okay, I've sold this amount of labor and it costs cost me this amount. So it is good for giving you some good indication of what the profitability of your cost per hour might be, or your cost generally might be when you run things like sales reports, which will give you, the information about how profitable you are and so on. So that's pretty much as simple as it is. You can put his mobile number in there, and you can put some notes in there as well if you like. Now, the other thing you can do is you can actually print out a time card. So that time card for that mechanic, you can say from one date to the next date, and that will actually show you that won't have any data in it in this instance, but any time that mechanic is clocked on and clocked off the job, it will show you that in that mechanic time card. The other thing that I can do is I can use this button to go and create a mobile user. So if I wanted to go and add a user to clock on and clock off mechanics using the app, so using the phone app, I would go here and click on the create. In this instance, I'm just not going to, I probably would have saved that customer first, but I'm just going to leave it as a default for our demo system. And then it will jump in there for the mobile user. I can select that they're active. I can put their email in, which is going to be the email that they're going to log in as, by the way. So, and look, it actually doesn't have to be a true email. So you can call it something like Mech1, at my workshop, or, Joe's workshop, or something like that. Right, something along those lines. Put a password in, and save, and that will create a mobile user. Mobile users are free. Note that they're different from the actual real users, or users who log on to the actual web page application. Now, the other way that you could have got there is if you go to settings and then into user setup maintenance, this is where you set up the users. So here's the actual users themselves, and then here are the mobile users. So I could have clicked the plus here and done the same thing, and then I would have needed to choose, the Edit Me Mechanic 1, for example, but it's the same process. But just to note that's the difference between these two sets of users, right? So they're one set, and this is another set of mobile users, and that's the setting up of the mechanics. So that's really straightforward for the mechanic setup, and that's, the quick overview of how to do that.